The purpose of the forum today is to inform you about the special elections and the candidates' positions that they're taking. And while none of our chambers endorsed any particular candidate, we think it is important that our elected leaders play a critical role in providing a business-friendly environment. So that's why we're here today. And without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, J.R. Trevino, who currently serves as the secretary for our board at the Hispanic Chamber, is also the mayor of Castle Hills, and is a proud graduate of LSA and ABLDP programs. In his day-to-day job, he is the COO of Treco Enterprises. So at this point, I will turn the floor over to our moderator, J.R. Trevino.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, thank you all so much for being here. We're really excited to hear from the candidates for Texas House 118. I just wanted to go into a little bit of the rules so that everybody understands how everything's going to go. I'm going to introduce all the candidates, and we'll ask a series of questions to each candidate. This is not a debate. This is just a forum, an opportunity for the candidates to talk a little bit and for you to learn a little bit about their beliefs and opinions. Each candidate will have approximately 2 minutes to respond. If they go a little bit longer, Marina will remind them, or Martin will remind them, and we're trying to be fair to everybody. Please monitor your own time so that Martin doesn't have to buy you. At the end, each candidate will be given an opportunity to present a 1-minute closing statement. And that is it. I would let the candidates introduce themselves. We'll start with Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Frank Ramirez. I'm the candidate for House District 118. First off, I want to thank all of the chambers for putting together such a wonderful event. So one more time, give yourselves a round of applause. This is huge. So I'm a Southside guy. I went to school in the public education system in the Harlandale Independent School District. I went to Gillette Elementary, Kingsborough Middle, and McCullum High School. And then I went off to the University of Texas at Austin, came back home, and I worked as a legislative director and chief of staff during the 85th session of Texas House of Representatives. I have now been for the past 4 years with Councilwoman Ana Sandoval as her director of zoning and planning. And so we have a strong race to run right now, and we have 11 more days to do it. So I'm excited to spend some time here this morning with each and every one of y'all to talk about some very important issues. So thank you for having me, and again, I'm Frank Ramirez, and I'm running for House District 118.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Mrs. Katie Farias.
Hi, sorry, I don't have a lapel on to put my mic on. Yes, I'm Katie Farias. I am a Southside School Board member. I am the former district director for State Senator Roland Gutierrez. But the most important role I play is a mom. And right now as a mom, I'm angry at the war on women in Texas. I'm angry at the war on children here in Texas, especially when it comes to masks in school. And I have yet to hear from the gentlemen here that are sitting next to me across this board about where they stand on these issues. And I'm hoping that we hear that response today. But as a candidate, I am going to fight for our women. As a mother of a 12-year-old daughter, a woman, even including my daughter, can be raped in Texas, and that person can profit off of it. We are not protecting our children in schools, and even though today we are here to discuss business and economy here in San Antonio, by not protecting our children in schools, that is hurting our workforce because our parents have to be home with children, and therefore our economy is suffering. So that is what I'm here to talk about today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Farias. Next up, we have Mr. Martinez.
Good morning, everybody. I have no volume problems whatsoever. If you can't hear me, just raise your hand. I am a trial attorney and owner of Martinez & Associates, a Southside law firm. We've been there for 15 years. Katie, we had our debate on Saturday, but I do believe in the same thing she does. We need to talk about some issues. This is a forum, though, for business. And that's what I've been doing now for 15 years after being told not to open my firm on the South Side in 2021. Like many of you, We were on the best of list for San Antonio Express News. And I'm proud to say, even after being told not to open a Southside law firm, we were named the best law firm in the entire city, and the vote wasn't even close. I'm proud of that fact because, again, I'm trying to do what I can in my world to bring something good and positive to the area where I live. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So like you, I went through this past year. I fed families, I fed employments, I did employees, everything that I could to survive. But we all know, as business people, what we were going through with the pandemic and going virtual, and then COVID, snowvid, snowpocalypse. And if it wasn't for that, I literally wouldn't be running because I blew my top. Here I am trying to save my business, and it doesn't feel like we're getting any help from our legislature. So the reason I'm running, I think most of you are going to understand just like I do, we needed help, and we needed leadership that was really willing to work as hard as we were. And that's what I'm planning on bringing this. You'll hear more about me during the debate, but I thank you all for this forum. I'm looking forward to meeting and speaking with every single one of you because we've got some things to talk about. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Mr. Lujan.
Hello, my name is John Lujan, and I'm running for State Rep 118. Just a little bit about me. I worked with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office for 6.5 years when I was a lot younger. I then went into the San Antonio Fire Department. I spent 25 years as a San Antonio firefighter. I retired about 7-8 years ago, and I think I love the fire department. Best job in the world. There's not a better, you're always helping people, and I loved it. But I had started a company in '99, and about 7-8 years ago, we had grown to about 200 employees, and I couldn't do both anymore. It never failed. The day I had a big meeting that next morning at the fire station that night, we responded to a fire, and we were out all night, and I'd be all beat up and tired, and I'd be bad in the meeting. So anyway, my partners, I had 25 years in, I retired. Today, we sit close to 600 employees. It's an IT firm that I own, Sistema Technologies and Wynell Consulting. In fact, I'm real proud of the chamber. They did our grand opening. Never in my life did I think I would own a building. I grew up in the South Side. I'm one of 6 kids. My dad's a minister. We lived on, minimum. And never did I think it's a big dream for my parents too, who are still alive and helping on the campaign that we do this. I've been married 37 years. I have 5 boys, 2 biological boys, and I'm going to tell you right now, 36, 32, they live in Costa Rica. They came down here just for the election. They would be here today, but when they found out it's Augie's, they like barbecue. I'm supposed to take them some. But they said, Dad, that's not in our district. He goes, we need to be block walking. So they're block walking with the team right now. So, I praise God for that. But I too want to answer any questions about business. We need good leadership at the legislature, especially representing the 118.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Mr. Salyer.
How we doing, y'all? Can y'all hear me back there? Okay. With that said, my name's Adam Salyer, and we are running for District 118. So you got a choice on your hand. Me, myself, I'm the small guy, the little guy. With that said, I've got 5 businesses, 5 small businesses that need bolstering efforts from each and every one of y'all. I've got a comic book company I started for a friend of mine because he's battling schizophrenia. Helped him out. It's been running for 7 years. Try that. Yeah, that's impressive. I'm going to tell you. With that said, I've been doing real estate. I picked up real estate because my dad was battling cancer. I went to help him. Did that to help him. He passed away a couple years ago, unfortunately, but I'm still doing real estate today on the side. I'm doing everything I possibly can to make this thrive in this economy. With that said, I was 14 years Army, 17 surgeries, y'all. It literally came from wheelchair to walking. That put me where I'm at today. I've got the determination, the desire, and the fire to make this work. But I can't do this alone, y'all. Each and every one of you are proud, bold, and brave being here today. That means you want your business to thrive. That's what we need today, y'all. I need a collective effort from each and every one of you, and I challenge you. Speak up. Let us know what we need to do up in legislation. None of these fine folks can get it done without your help. So get out and vote.
I just want to thank each and one of y'all for putting your name in the hat and for putting yourselves out there. As an elected official, I understand that it's almost impossible to always please everybody, and I think that y'all are doing a great job by stepping up and representing your area and your community and answering the call to serve. So thank you all so much. Again, we're going to start. We have 2 minutes. Please be mindful of your time. Ready? Here we go. Mr. Ramirez, what is the single most important issue facing small businesses in your district and why?
Yeah, thank you, JR. So I've lived on the South Side my entire life. And one of the things that has been apparent since I can even remember is access to reliable, proper infrastructure. Making sure that our small businesses have accessibility to everybody. On Southwest Military Drive, you can go from one end to the other and you have to cross several busy roads. You have to play Frogger to get to a business. And there's a lot of challenges, not just in the South Side, but out in the county, out in the ETJ, where we are seeing a lack of transportation between the city of San Antonio, Elmendorf, Somerset, and then of course all the way up to Schertz, Cibolo, and Selma. And so infrastructure and transportation are going to be some of the biggest challenges for small businesses, because I can tell you this, walking home from Kingsborough Middle School every day, I had the challenge of having $2 in my pocket and making a decision to go to the McDonald's that was 1.5 miles away on foot, or going to the convenience store that's located half a mile away. And so reliability for VIA, making sure that we have access to healthy food alternatives, making sure that we have access to a lot of the businesses that may not see business because people just aren't able to get there. And I'm talking about our senior citizens now. Making sure that they have access to VIA Trans if they need to get to a medical appointment at a small business somewhere in the South Side. I'm talking Gonzaba, I'm talking Central Med. And making sure that we have ample infrastructure for people to remain safe on the sidewalks. I remember again walking home from Kingsborough and not having access to any of those sidewalks and not having access to any businesses because there was no connectivity. And so I know a lot of good work has happened in the South Side to bring back that logical, common sense infrastructure and connectivity, but we still have a lot of work to do. And if we want to make sure that our businesses are well supplied, well prepared, and well visited, we need to be able to get there. And not just in a single vehicle. We need to be able to walk there and use alternative modes of transportation to do it. So I think that's one of our greatest issues in the South Side, because I've lived through it and I still live through it today.
Thank you. Ms. Farias?
Well, I think there's two issues, honestly, that are hurting business right now, and that's the hiring. If you drive around anywhere, you see the need for employees. So that is something that we're seeing a lot of. But again, also the COVID issue. I'm going back to that because by not putting the masks in schools, by not mandating this in our city, we're hurting our economy. We're hurting our small businesses. Every time a child comes home from school, whether they have to quarantine, they're sick, they either get their parents sick or their parents are out for 10 days, they have to stay home with that child. That is hurting our small businesses. That is hurting our economy. And so those are things that we have to be real about. Those are the issues that we have to start addressing. And again, I'm going to go back to what I said, this war on women. Every time we hear about this bill, that is causing our economy to suffer. Already, 2 states in the north are talking about pulling out their goods and services to our state, and that's going to hurt our businesses. That is going to hurt our tourism coming to San Antonio. That's going to hurt our economy.
Thank you, Ms. Farias. Mr. Martinez?
I think the question was, what is the single biggest issue affecting our businesses there in the 118? Because my business is along the border, my employees are there, I live there in the 118th, I can tell you exactly what it is. And I'll explain it to you because I get to start telling stories in trial work. You have to know the statistics first. All of this, because it took me a while to truly understand it, more than 80% of our employees in District 118 have to drive further than 15 miles to get to work. Which means that if you're also driving around the area, you understand very specifically, these are small businesses in the 118. They have a lot of work ethic. They have a lot of ability. But at the end of the day, I'll share a quote that a friend always tells me. My people suffer for lack of knowledge. And what I mean by that is this. When I started law school, I wasn't the greatest student. I realized that a year into the law school, I was going to school with other attorneys' kids, with CEOs' kids, with the governor's kid. My mom was a lunch lady and a janitor. We didn't have the same discussions at the at the table that their families did in law school. I had to steal their knowledge and their habits in order to become successful in law school. I didn't have that starting off. Now, what do we have on the South Side? We have a lot of mom and pop shops. It's not a mystery. All you have to do is drive military. My uncles are all entrepreneurs, all Hispanic entrepreneurs, and what they did was buy something for 25 cents and sell it for 50 cents and make a profit. On the South Side, that's still happening, and what you have in that situation is this. Nobody has explained or educated my people there on the 118th about leases, how they're structured, triple net, energy costs, employee problems, things like taxes, sales taxes, and how you end up paying those things. And it's not for lack of work. It's not for lack of trying. It's for lack of communication. We're not reaching down and educating our small businessmen, giving them the resources and the relationship they need to actually help build the infrastructure or to fight anything. They're struggling to live. So we have to do what we can as successful businesses as you are and help in whatever way we can. And I think, again, it's helping educate the small businessmen there in the South Side that we need to solve for.
Thank you. And Mr. Lujan.
Single most important issue facing small business, and there's a lot of them. And Desi, I think my answer to that kind of goes along with this. And I had marketability. We need to really, really work. So the Southside Chamber takes a big role in that marketability. How do we, our Southside, we're so used to be that tight-knit community, we stay on that Southside. But we got to realize, and we've got to educate that it's bigger than just the Southside, San Antonio, Texas, United States. We're in a global economy. And how do you reach that customer, even on the others? You can start getting income that you didn't even think of when you start thinking out of the box and those things. And a lot of times the problem with us, we're so much in our world and we're stuck here. How do we educate and get ourselves out? That to me is not only interesting and something needs to be done, but it's fun. Those are kind of things that I like to do. Entrepreneurship, and I think we'll see that as the Southside grows, but we've got to start educating the foundation. We've got to start educating the young people on the mentality to be an entrepreneur and think out of the box and do the thing. And if we do that, all of us will rise together.
Thank you, Mr. Salyer.
Well, how we can combat this? Right here. I'm glad they brought up the efforts of what we can do, but guess what? It starts right here. Each and every one of you business collective individuals, whether it's chambers, this and that, we've got to come to the table, formulate a plan, and why not? Let's orchestrate a grant program for our fellow small businesses. What would that do for a small business? $1,000 here and there. Don't just give an application and have a nice day and whatsoever. Let's literally teach a business how to grow. 3 to 5 year projection. Give them a portfolio. Give them an idea, a concept on how to get a business going. And we have to adjust. Got to have a second and third option. Because look, a lot of these breweries ended up shifting gears and let's do hand sanitizer. And we're able to sustain themselves. So we got to have a second and third option to keep going. We got to swing from the hip. I'm from literally hard knocks of life. My mom was married 8 times. We had to learn to stretch a dollar. That's what we've got to do collectively here. And the chambers, y'all can help bolster an effort to let our businesses thrive. But it's more, let's teach them. Let's do the old parable. Teach you how to fish, and guess what? You survive for life. Am I right or am I right? Well, that's an effort we got to make. Help each other out. As a state representative, don't just say this is my half-hearted job. Literally get out in the organization. Get out and throughout and about. And you've got to learn what needs to be done. That's what a crucial element. So formulate a plan. Put things together and say, hey, look, let's formulate what we can do for our small businesses. We need it. And that's something I'd like to really bolster an effort of doing. But I can't do it, again, by myself. It's got to be with y'all's effort to get these types of programs running. Because it can be done. But it takes y'all's help.
Thank you. As chambers, we exist to help small businesses Over the last year, we've seen that some of the local governments are imposing laws and regulations that make it difficult for small businesses to exist and do what they do on a daily basis. What is your position on cities imposing mandates and regulating private employment practices such as hiring, scheduling, wages, benefits? Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you. And you're right. You know, the local governments, municipalities have been taking a step in where the state is not willing to. Right? I think that we can all agree that we want the best for our employees. And I'll start off by saying this: my grandfather started a small business about 45 years ago, Ramita's Roofing Company, and it's still in existence today. He's 84 years old, yet he still gets on the roofs to do estimates, to make house calls to his friends and to our family. And it's important that he understands, if he can understand that paying his employees a decent wage, a livable wage, why can't we all see it? Why can't the government help out where municipalities are not willing to, right? And so I want to ensure that as a state legislator, that we're beginning the conversation to preempt local governments in making a minimum wage across the state. Because it's difficult as a business owner, if you're working in San Antonio that has a minimum wage of $15 or $12 or X, Y, and Z, but then in Houston, you're working with a different number. It can make it an actuarial and a financial nightmare if you're having to use different hours at different rates. And it even becomes more complicated when we're talking about different states. And so that's one of my goals, and that's one of my points of conversation I want to make is the city of San Antonio or the municipalities that are taking the charge here are doing so because the state is failing to do so. Now, it can make it hard on a number of small businesses to exist when we're talking about paid sick leave, or we're talking about a minimum wage that's a livable wage. However, wages are stagnant. Jobs are becoming more difficult to find, and we need to ensure that we're remaining competitive at the economic level to bring in more talent, to retain talent, and to grow that talent, especially here in District 118, where we're seeing people not being able to get those jobs, but once they're in, I have a friend who works at Toyota, has been there for 9 years, and now he's making 6 figures with a high school diploma. So offering more opportunities like that and making it more competitive across the state for people to want to come to us and stay here and contribute to our society and to our district is a priority of mine. And it is difficult whenever we have a state legislature that's continually waging wars on people's human rights, women's rights, voting rights, the right to simply exist in school and to remain safe in school. And so we need to close the gaps on all of these things, and it's our responsibility as legislators, as state representatives or future state representatives, to get that job done. And I want to push that item and that issue to the forefront because we're losing sight of the things that really matter. Making sure people have jobs and food on their table at the end of the day. And if we're making it more difficult for that to happen in District 118, we need to close that gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Farias.
So I believe that there is a balance to this. That if, as a person who grew up in a small business, my father started a small business in Bernie that my mother and my sister now run. I believe there's a balance that, as I saw with my father, he took care of his working class employees by not only offering great salaries, but also offering great benefits. And by doing that, they took care of his business. And so I believe that's important. But also, we have to, if we're going to take care of these businesses, we also have to offer and protect them, making sure they have the right PPE, making sure they're taken care of during COVID. And these are things that I can work with at the legislature. We've got to get this back to protecting our children, protecting our businesses, and making sure that we can get working class citizens back in to their jobs. And the only way to do that is working together in small businesses and making sure that we have the right tools for those small businesses to succeed and protecting their employees, protecting their employers, and you're going to see their businesses grow.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Treviño. A couple of things. I did not get the union endorsement, and I will tell you why the union didn't endorse me. I can't agree with absolutely everything and say yes and yes and yes to some of the demands that are made, because that's not my job, is to agree with everybody on everything. That means I'm telling somebody no. But more specifically, I want to talk about the mission. Ultimately, I am a small businessman, just like all of you. I have 20 plus employees at Martinez and Associates who I pay a very livable wage. You know some of them, they do very well. And they have benefits, and I always joke with them that they're a little bit spoiled because we take care of them in a very real way. The reason I say that is because, again, that took me as an owner stopping to say, I'm not taking 60% of every dollar. I want my most important asset, my employees, to be taken care of and be happy and be vested here. Now, the question was specifically about small businesses and, again, wages that are demanded, minimum wages and things of that nature. And I'm saying this. You have to take into consideration, especially in this COVID, post-COVID environment, what that does, what those rules that the city and the government has done, how it will affect a small businessman. Because again, in my business specifically, again, we already pay above a minimum wage. But when you have a mom and pop shop that is struggling to pay somebody $10 an hour to keep them employed, well, at the end of the day, that may close their doors. And again, that trinity between business, government, and public isn't working too well. You can't have too much domination from one side. So as far as I'm concerned, how you deal with that are specific conversations. There is no uniform blanket solution for what's going on. We have different problems in the 118th, and I know it because that's where my clients are. That's where I shop. Those are the people that I speak to. That is the multiplication effect of my office in the area, and I know what's going on. So ultimately, there has to be real discussion. There has to be legislators that are willing to put the time in instead of just talking about solutions, go looking for them.
Can you respond to that?
We're going to just keep on going.
Okay.
Mr. Lujan.
Okay. What I want to say on this one here is I'm a guy that, I'm a business guy. I do not like the government coming in and telling us what to pay, how to do things. Thriving business does that. I have great employees. I have great employees. And you know why I have great employees? Because I pay them well. In fact, my salespeople that work for me, I try to get them through commission and salary so that nobody, I call them untouchables. No other company can come and take them because you're going to have to pay them an extraordinary amount of money. That's what good businesses do. But to penalize a business that doesn't have that opportunity to have, or got family members or things like that, and you're going to give mandates and tell them, you have to pay this, you have to do that, that's what destroys our businesses. What we ought to do is get those businesses lifted up so that we can begin to pay those wages. I don't like when the government comes in and says, I don't care what stage of business you're in, here's a mandate, and you got to follow this. That mandate might be good for a company that's 3 or 4 years old and successful, but we all know through statistics that starting a business is very difficult. And within the first year, most of them are gone. And I believe most of them are gone a lot of times because of mandates. So the less mandates that we have on that, putting a good framework in place, and I think that's what we need more. We need more businessmen in office than we do true politicians in office. Because business people can come in there and put this framework together that we all play together and we play fair, and that's how business thrives.
Thank you, Mr. Salyer.
Well, I guess the answer to all this problem right here is this. Reagan said it best, deregulation. We've got too much governmental control over everything. Businesses aren't allowed to thrive where they want to be. And it tailors right into our employment status. Allow a business to grow. Teach them, show them, and help them. Honestly, deregulation will help us tremendously. In the legislative level, we've got to actually look at a business, see what we can do, help them out, but don't control them. Don't control them. The Constitution means something. We've got the right to own this. We've got the right to do this. So my thought process behind this, allow our businesses to grow. City municipalities, some of them have some ordinances that are ridiculous, out the box. Well, why can't we go back to the table, look at it and say, how can we get good businesses in this city to thrive? Instead of hitting them all these code enforcements and all these certain particular things right and left. Well, now they can't pay the good employees. They can't pay them good because they're getting strapped with fines right and left. Well, as state, take the time to go talk to city municipalities and ask them, hey, can we scrub through this and look at this? Yes, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to go old school. Grow the way you need to grow and make it work.
Thank you. with COVID, we've seen that there's been an increase in remote learning, remote education, remote learning, and remote work. What role do you think that the state legislature has, if any, in addressing the digital divide? Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you. So the legislature has a very strong approach to teaching kids at home. You know, funding school systems and our educators and training them to bridge that digital divide, so that way children can learn safely at home, especially whenever we're being threatened in our schools by not allowing the individuals, school districts, to make those decisions that are best for their districts. And so the question here is, how can we help to address the digital divide? Again, this goes back to infrastructure. Making sure that we have a proper investment in the district to create fiber optic cables and the infrastructure to support it, not only in the south side of San Antonio, where we are talking about an 88% economically disadvantaged student body, but also into the county, where access to Wi-Fi, access to high-speed internet is not something that exists there. I spoke to a constituent the other day who told me, growing up, or watching her kids grow up in the East Central School District, they had to stay at school far beyond the hours after school ended because there was access to internet there. Now, they wanted to get services through AT&T, through Spectrum, but they weren't there yet. And so we need to incentivize our businesses to ensure that they make it out to the rural parts of the district, but also to ensure that we are creating an environment where we don't have to have Harlandale ISD school buses park outside of libraries or park outside of small businesses in order to give free Wi-Fi out. One of the biggest nonprofits that I've worked with is Libraries Without Borders, and they're working to close the gap by bringing internet to where people are going, right? Where people in the south side and where people exist. And that's important because if you're at the washateria at 7 o'clock at night and there's no access to internet, you're gonna have to stay there for an hour and a half or two. Those are real challenges that my family and I had to deal with growing up as well. And a lot of people still today do it. And so if we can have high-speed internet access in places like that, in more creative places, then we can definitely start to close that digital divide, give people access to the internet, which gives them access to opportunity. And so that's one of my plans, is to work with the legislature to ensure that we're closing those gaps here in the district.
Yes.
So yes, as a school board member, when it comes to the digital divide, I saw this firsthand in my district. Where much like Frank had pointed out, that we were parking Wi-Fi buses out in some of the rural areas that did not have connectivity to Wi-Fi, so that our children could proceed with virtual. However, that still wasn't enough. I had family members parking beside the buses in the district because the connectivity still wouldn't reach their house. So they would park there all day to make sure that their children got an education. So at the legislative level, we have got to work. The fantasy world here would be to have a tower or something put out in that area. However, that is a long process. And I believe that we can eventually get there. However, we've got to bridge these gaps in between. So working with school districts to see how we can provide free internet and free, to make it more accessible to our children, that is what we need to work on. And really quick, I just have to go back to the question before. As a union member, I support the cost of living increase. I support benefits. However, I do want to make it clear that because of what is happening right now at the legislature, at the top, with the issues that I pointed out earlier, we will never get to some of these issues of cost of living, of cost of benefits increase, because we cannot do that until we put the fires out at the top. And that is addressing the war on women, and that is addressing the war on our children with COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
It was just said that, again, we can dream about solutions, but what is really happening right now? I will share with you, as a business owner, just like you, we had to find a way to go virtual, and I was very proud of the fact that we were able to go virtual as an office before the law firms. Now, thankfully, they wanted to come back to work, and I had to let them know I will not I'll sacrifice productivity for your safety. It's okay, we're gonna make this through. However, we're looking for real solutions. We're talking about real solutions, and I'm gonna share one thing with you. Government's not gonna build our infrastructure for the internet. It's not gonna happen. It costs too much. It's a reality. So I'll tell you what goes on where I live, because it was embarrassingly embarrassing how slow my internet was where I lived, and I'm trying to lead the ship. We have to start having discussions. We have to start having discussions with those entities that are actually building the infrastructure. AT&T told me where we live, there's not enough families out there yet for us to put the money into the infrastructure to get you the high-speed wire internet. So I had a discussion. Thomas Aguilar, I want to bring you up again, because again, this is something that is very specific to you, and you're one of these people that can help all of us with the question that's being asked. Spectrum is willing and also building a $5 billion infrastructure. We have to have conversations with gentlemen like Mr. Aguilar so that he knows what our true problems are where we live. Is governmental relations, and I'm not trying to get your phone blown up, but the reality is we have to have those conversations with people that can make a difference in order to start building the foundation that we need in our infrastructure as far as our internet and things of that nature. And again, that's a real way to do it. Because thinking about solutions with technology, those are Jetsons type solutions, right? That'll happen maybe in 50 years. We got Flintstone problems where we live in the 118. And those are the kind of solutions that we need.
Thank you. Mr. Lujan.
I agree with that. The only thing I would say is, as a state legislature, I'm excited about this particular issue, because this is one that we can get together, bring people together. We need a comprehensive approach to this. Number one, you're right, government's not going to pay for this to get this done. So we need to have that interest in there. And that's going to take all of us, because there's more to it than just having fiber there. We need to have fiber, we got to get that. But what about infrastructure? What about the cost to start spreading all of this? And then the last thing is about knowledge. What do you do with it? And how do you improve on it? I've seen the difference. I speak at any high school that calls me, you can put my name down, I don't care, I'll do it. Any high school that calls me and wants me to talk to their technology folks or business development, I do that. And there's a distinct difference. I spoke at my high school, Southside High School, told them all about technology. I have this PowerPoint, this thing I do, and the kids coming up, Mr. Lujan, I love technology and all that good stuff. I went to the north side at Clark High School. I did the same speech. Here comes a kid. Hey, Mr. Lujan, my name's Bobby. I want to give you my card. I do back-end development work, and I do MySQL and this. I said, wow, you work on Oracle? Oh, no, sir, but if I touch it, I know I can pick it up. Same concept. Just fearless. And then I said, man, who does your front-end work for you? He goes, oh, that's Steve. Steve, come over here. Meet Mr. Lujan. Give him your card. And these are high school kids. Tell me who doesn't have an advantage when it comes to the job market, when they're going to go get ahead. We need to fix this problem. And you're right, it's not something that's going to fix overnight, but we got to get started on it now. We got to put that comprehensive plan together, and we got to start moving toward that. Because once we get those fiber things out there, coming out, we put those hubs in place, you're talking about entrepreneurs starting business. I'm already working with a small business right now that's bringing fiber out to Elmendorf and stuff. He's all excited, and there's some grant monies. Those are the kind of things that we need to pick up. Those are things that are exciting for our district. Those are opportunities.
Mr. Salyer.
Well, I'm all about opportunities, like anybody else. We're talking about virtual, opportunity to learn, this and that for our children. But we've missed something. We've missed something in legislature this last time. HB 1468, look it up. We had the opportunity to get funds for our kids to go virtual, to hit these areas like this. And the misguided, half-hearted efforts we've had up top literally left us alone. This district was abandoned. I'm telling you right now, it's things like that we need to step up, be bold, be brave, and allow the legislation to pass. Now, this was an opportunity for schools to get funding directly for that. But what we did was we kind of sat there. You had the House pass, you had the Senate pass. It literally went to committees, sat on the floor. It literally sat there, and it did not pass. Because some people took a stance. And fine, take a stance, that's fine, but you take an oath to the people. They're first and foremost. These kids are first and foremost. Now, I'm harping on that because it was an opportunity. We could have helped the school districts who need more education. This was a perfect opportunity. And mindful individuals up top would sit at the table, talk to y'all, and say, oh, businesses need to thrive with some virtual opportunities. Why couldn't we piggyback on that with something like that for our small businesses? If we're smart enough and come to the table and adjust and think about how we can bolster an effort to help everyone, we can accomplish so many great things together.
Thank you. The week of February 15th is one that we won't forget anytime soon. It's one that our electrical grid almost failed. There was people without power, lives were lost. As the state's looking at revamping the grid, the question's going to be made, are we willing to pay more to raise the standard for weatherization and to provide more resiliency? My question to you all is, what is your opinion on that, and what other ideas do you have as legislators for House 118 to improving the reliability of the grid?
Right, and you know, there were lives needlessly lost during that winter storm, and it was a direct hit on the governor and the state legislature, because time and time again throughout the past 4 or 5 sessions, bills have been introduced to increase the reliability of our electrical grid, to ensure that weatherization was a priority and that we were funding it appropriately to prevent something like this from happening. But far too often we see that once it's happened, that's whenever we start getting the ball rolling. What about proactivity? What about ensuring that we talk about these things, because smarter people than us are looking at this and saying this is the real issue? And if we're not able to listen to the experts about what really counts, then what are we doing? And again, the ball was dropped by the governor and by ERCOT. And so there are ideas out there that we can utilize to improving our infrastructure. And it is the state legislature's charge to do so. We need to ensure that all of our oil refineries, all of our generators are weatherized and are prepared for what we're anticipating is another rough winter, because we cannot survive another impact like this. And we need to really be spending our dollars wisely and putting our dollars where they need to be. And I'm talking about the rainy day fund. If we have several $billions accessible to us for emergencies, I can't think of a better emergency here. However, it does fall on the state legislature and the governor to really make that happen. And I'm hard-pressed to believe that it will, because if it didn't happen during Hurricane Harvey, which was a huge drop ball, it won't happen now. But it is going to be up to us to push that ticket and to make sure that issue is on the forefront. And if we can begin by diversifying where our energy comes from, begin by creating guidelines to preparing our systems to be weatherized and to sustain themselves, then we're on the right track. But there's still a lot of work that we need to do.
Mrs. Farias.
So yes, that storm was a tremendous hit to Texas, all of Texas. And, you know, this may sting a little bit, but the CPS Energy and other electrical companies got a bit of a free pass because the governor turned his back and didn't hold people accountable, didn't hold ERCOT accountable, he still to this day has not addressed this issue, and quite frankly has profited off of it. So going forward at the legislative level, we need to make sure that these energy resources, whether it's at the electrical companies, it's whether it's winterizing our windmills and our wind farms, all of that. We need to make sure that we're prepared for this next winter storm. I have a constituent that I talked to the other day that I've mentioned before that is stocking up on firewood and has been since May in preparation for the next winter storm. That's not right here in Texas. We were all affected by that. So we need to make sure, and we need to make sure that all options are on the table. There is a reason that El Paso kept its lights on. And I think that all options should be looked at when addressing this issue. But we need to hold those accountable, and we need to make sure that our governor knows where we stand on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
I think I might have been the guy that stockpiling the firewood. I'll tell you right now, had that not happened, I wouldn't be here today. That event where I'm sitting in my home with my neighborhood out there in the Elmendorf area, taking care of our neighbors, we're taking care of each other. I literally sat there and thought of my family growing up. I thought of my single mother raising us, going, who's looking out for them? Because I've been fortunate to have resources. What about those in my district that don't have it? This is a very personal issue to me, because this is the reason I'm running, that event. So let me tell you something that I need you all to take into consideration. The Weather Almanac, the Farmer's Weather Almanac says this winter may be worse. And the solution hasn't come. You understand? It may be worse. And it's a very accurate publication. Has been for over 200 years. Okay? So, here's what's going on. You have to understand, we all have to understand the problem first. The problem is that our energy grid here is a commodities it is being brokered as a commodity. And it's an energy-only market. And what that means very specifically is we only store and purchase enough energy for the needs that we have at the moment. We're not stockpiling it for an emergency, like a rainy day or an icy day. You understand? That wasn't fixed. I know several people that go up to the government, and this is not an exaggeration. The governor laughed at this solution. He fired some people on the ERCOT board and did nothing to fix it. Okay? So the reality is this. We have people that are coming and there's a need coming. And we only have enough energy for what's going on at that time. So something has to be done first. You ask, what would be my solution? First solution would be, we have to start building a market for the storage of it, because something is going to happen. It's Texas. It's 80 degrees in the morning, it's 30 degrees at night. We are going to have weather-related issues that we need to prepare for, just like Joseph did. We need to stockpile some money and some energy for the future. That needs to be created, because it's not happening. Second thing we need to do is again, we need to do those things in order, necessary in order to help those, the stockpiling actually happening and hold people accountable. Apologize, I want to keep on talking.
Thank
I
you,
can talk.
Mr. Lujan.
Yeah, this is a topic that we could go on and on and on about. But, you know, the reality of this, you know, the stockpiling and all that is good. But the problem is that we have a very dated system, very old. So the solution on this is a re-engineering of this. And I'm not talking about fixing it or tweaking it. I'm talking about re-engineering it to bring it up to modern technology. But that doesn't happen because we do work in silos. So what we need to do, and I don't even know, to be honest with you, I don't know if this is a Republican or a Democrat idea. It's what I think needs to be done, period. It doesn't matter. We need to have incentives for co-ops so that they can work together, share the technology, fix some of the bridges, do the storage that needs to be done, but they'd be able to work together. Right now, they can't do that. But if we go to Austin and we can say, hey, we want to incentivize co-ops to work together so they can plan and we can upgrade our system that way through re-engineering effort. And the second thing, possibly maybe some land grants to put some repeater stations in places, things that we need to do so that we can reach and make sure that everybody has the power. It's a shame that we're in this situation because we have the technology and we have the capabilities to not be in this situation. That's what makes it sad. But we need to put the game, change the rules so that we can fix this. And that to me is working in co-ops.
Mr. Salyer?
I like that co-ops. That's a good idea. He's the right man. How y'all doing back there? Everybody okay? Loosen up, relax. This is just a nice little forum. With that said, the way we can do this, American Rescue Plan Act. There's $100 million funding right there, and it's to help low-income families. Why my lights were on at Universal City? Because the planning and preparing was great for them. There was a lot of people across this district that did not have lights. But guess what I did? Instead of sitting at home in the confinements of my home, I went out and fed the families. I took them food, dropped it off, and this fine man's done it. I've seen a lot of these people do it. That's how we band together and help each other. The good old boy mentality of help your brother in need. That's what we need to do. So with that said, there is funding, but nobody's looking at it. Let's get the funding to the table so we can creatively think of better ways to put it. This wasteful spending we're doing across the board, you know, every time we have a session, that's 1.3 million. Yes, 1.3 million wasted. How many sessions did we have wasted? Come on, y'all. Work together. Simple. Come to the table. Let's get things done. Let's find the money. Put it where it needs to be. I'm not the most bright one in the bunch, but I will tell you this. I've always been a man of making it happen. Let's get things done.
Thank you. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our time frame, but I do want to give all of y'all that are present a chance to ask a couple questions for the candidates that we have here. Do we have any questions? Councilwoman, yes ma'am.
Thank you all very much for your time. This is one of the most important special sessions that we are going to be having, and it starts on Monday. This election does not happen until later than that. So redistricting and ARPA dollars for HD 118. How are you going to start hitting the ground running for the special session?
Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you, Councilwoman. That's a great question. One of the advantages that I have in my candidacy is that I'm the only one with legislative experience. I worked as a legislative director and a chief of staff in the House of Representatives in the same seat, in the same office that I'm running for today. As well as that, I was also a zoning and planning director for the city of San Antonio District 7. So with Councilwoman Ana Sandoval's office, I was able to learn all of the policy perspective that incorporates the city and the state. So whenever we're talking about a session that's going to be coming up quick, like in the next few days, we need somebody that's going to be able to reliably hit the ground running, who has experience with other staffers and other legislators, not only within the Fair County delegation, but also throughout the state. And making sure that we have relationships with their chiefs of staff, with their legislative directors, to understand where we are heading as a legislature. And so that's going to be one of my advantages here. And I want to assure everybody that once we get there, we will be able to hit the ground running. I know where the restroom is. I know where the cloakrooms are. I've been there and I've served in that building for several years. And I want to ensure that we have somebody who's out there who's able to represent our values and also represent the needs of the community. And I'm the only one out here that's knocking on doors and talking to people where they live and making sure that we understand their issues moving forward. And so when we're talking about the distribution of funding through ARPA, or we're talking about mask mandates in schools, or if we're talking about, transgender rights in schools, we need to make sure that we are having a comprehensive understanding of the district at large. And if we can put those two things together, then we will have an effective special session. And we will be able to talk to our representatives, our colleagues, and make things happen. So it is unfortunate that the timing of this race is as such that we aren't going to have representation in 118 when the special session starts. And I think that's by design. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it has to go. But I hope that we can come to an end of this election and have somebody up there who's going to represent our values well. Thank you.
Ms. Frias.
I have to agree with Frank on this to some extent as far as we've got to have representation up there. And I believe that the special was called the way it was for that particular reason, to benefit the Republicans being up there when it comes to redistricting. And so it's absolutely important to me as a Democrat, as a mom, as a Southside School Board member, to get up there to Austin to represent this district. I, like Frank, have had some legislative background as far as I've worked with Senator Roland Gutierrez. I was his district director, not just when he was a senator, but also when he was a House representative. So I've made these connections with these state agencies. I understand how they work. I understand what our needs in the community are when it comes to constituents, and I know what's important to them. So I plan to hit the ground running as soon as I get there and fighting back on some of these atrocious bills that we have seen come down this entire legislation, not just this past few special sessions. So I think it's very important that one of us is there to represent this district, and I hope it's me. I mean, I'm planning on being there and hitting the ground running. That's what I'm going to do.
Mr. Martinez.
When somebody comes into my door looking for representation, they're not asking for the 20+ employees to go to court with them. They're asking for the attorney and the leader to go to court with them. I've never worked on staff in the legislature. What I have done is I'm the only person here that's argued in the government at the highest levels. I've been in front of the appellate courts. I've been in front of the Texas Supreme Court. That is something that I bring to the table because that is an argument, the type of which is going on up there. I will tell you right now, ultimately, I believe that because of some of the PAC dollars that have come through, that the governor has taken a very special interest in what's going on here. And ultimately, you're going to have to decide what type of person you want barking on behalf of you up there. I'm the only one that's had that experience. So specifically to your question, we don't have the numbers. We don't. And when I say we, I mean the Democrats, which is traditionally 118. It is Senate, or House, or Representative, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Supreme Court is all one color. And we don't have the numbers to continue to fight with that. They have the majority on everything. So at the end of the day, we have, I'm going to agree with Katie and Frank, we have to fight. We have to fight about everything because they're redistricting, they want to redistrict the 118 so that, again, it fits the party, their party. So we're talking about American Rescue Plan Act dollars, right? Ultimately, those dollars in the last session by the billions were already rejected by this legislature, this governor. Billions were rejected. So literally, your representation matters. That's how those questions are going to get answered on your behalf in the 118. That's what I'm planning on doing, and doing what I do for a living, what I've been bred to do.
Thank you. Mr. Lujan.
I think to win this election, I think we need to get a, obviously there's 5 of us up here and all of us are good people. And I think all of us have our hearts in the right area. I just believe, man, when I decided to run, I was probably one of the last ones that decided to run. But when I decided to run, I look back, I'm a family man. I've been married 37 years. I've got 5 boys. My last 3 boys are adoptive boys. Never once did my wife and I say let's adopt children. Some people have unplanned pregnancies. We have unplanned adoptions. And so that in itself, going through those experiences, going to charter schools and then putting them into high schools and then the football games, all that. My last one is a junior in high school now, the other 2 in college, and then I have my 2 older boys. But I'm a man of faith, and I teach in Sunday school. I've been doing it 20 plus years. I have a great high school group. Every Sunday morning, it gives me hope. 20 to 30 kids I teach every Sunday morning, and I love that. And I haven't stopped that because that keeps me going. That going on, being a professional firefighter for 25 years, I was a police officer for 6.5 years, part of the fire department. All those experiences, plus you might not like this if you're a Democrat, but not in a bad way. I was the first and only Republican ever elected in the 118 district in the history of Texas. Now, I didn't win the election, but I won the special election. And I think all those experiences, if you put all that together, and then, we do have a Republican House and Senate. I'm going to work that event. You know what they do? They might say, okay, we want to pour into John Lujan. But you know what John Lujan's going to say? You want to make John Lujan happy? We're going to pour into District 118. We're going to make changes in 118. We're going to at least start that comprehensive plan for the grid. We're going to do the things to promote small businesses. That's what I do already, but I'm just going to do it at a state level as a state representative.
Thank you. Mr. Salyer.
Well, to answer your question directly, I appreciate you first and foremost for asking it. I've never stopped, so I'm not going to hit the ground running. I'm still running. I started day 1. This is going on 3 years for me. I'm passionate. I care about this district. From 87 miles, 167,000 plus citizens. And I'm going to take the party hat off. It's literally got to be the people. When we go state, it's going to be, what can we get done? And if y'all don't see that passion on me, you might as well leave now. Because I'm that kind of person. I will talk to the Democrats. I will talk to the Republicans. I will talk to the independents. Because they've all felt left out. And this has got to stop. I'm 14 years Army. One thing I've known is improvise and adapt. It's the way society runs. You've got to do that as a business owner. You've got to improvise for the changes that life has given us. And if you don't wake up and do it, what happens? We go bankrupt. And that's not in the cards for me. Each and every one of y'all stand up firm and stand up strong and make this district thrive. But we got to get creative. And I will not stop. They're going to have to take this from my cold, dead hands. I'm telling you, they ain't getting it. Run for it. Care about it. I do walk on the doors. I do talk to my citizens. I have done it from day 1, and I will not stop. I'm here to fight for you.
Thank you. Okay, we are about the point where they're about to start doing construction again. So we're going to have to wrap it up. And I encourage you to reach out to the candidates directly if you have questions. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a part of this forum.
Thank you all so much. Let's give the candidates